Welcome into Jags A.M. this morning. I'm Kainani Stevens. Brian Sexton, John Oesher with me. We also have a special guest host who I'll introduce in a moment. But Jaguars riding high on that Week 1 win, but also turning the page as we start to look towards Cincinnati this weekend. Let's go over some of the big things here today on Jags A.M. Starting off with Trader James, as a big trade went down on Monday evening, becoming official on Tuesday. Brian, but we talked about that crowded running back room. Not as crowded now. Tank Bigsby traded up to Philadelphia for a couple of draft picks to come back. Were you surprised by the move?
No, I think it made a lot of sense. And Ryan O'Halloran wrote this in a column, so I got to give him credit back in mid-August. Listen, it was too much value for the Jaguars to pass on, to be able to take a running back for whom there were not going to be a substantial amount of carries, and to move him for a 5th and 6th round pick next year. Now they have 13 picks. They have 3 in the 3rd, they've got 2 in the 4th, they've got 2 in the 5th, they've got 4 in the 7th. That's great value, and that's what they were looking for overall. Remember, Travis Etienne is playing on the 5th-year option and is likely, no matter how good a year he has this year, to be playing somewhere else because the Jaguars used draft choices on Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen Jr. The future here is set on those 2 guys. So to be able to take Tank Bigsby and flip him into 2 picks and put him in a situation where he'll be happy in Philadelphia, where they run the ball a lot, makes a lot of sense.
James Gladstone certainly not afraid to make any trades, and now stacking up those picks. So we'll have to see what that turns into. Big thing number 2 today is going to be tail of the tape. Obviously, take the first half of the week to look back at that game against the Panthers. And while Brian Thomas Jr. did have a touchdown, a rushing touchdown, he only had 1 reception. He wasn't overly involved. Coach Cohen talked a little bit about some of the miscommunications between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr.
I think we tried to get him a touch on the first or second drive of the game. First play of the game, right? We don't convert it, throw him a screen, low, doesn't come down with it. And then the flow of the game, we missed him on a in-breaker, which he had a lot of room to run. Missed him on a corner route where he was fairly open. And then missed, had the one on the out of bounds. So you're talking about that's 5 catches right there that gets him into the flow of it. It's just the way the game went. And, we got details of route running, timing, depth, the quarterback, protection, everything goes into it. So I fully anticipate him being able to get going.
John, we saw some success from the running backs in this game, and even Trevor Lawrence running around a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr. had a rushing touchdown, but how do they get him more involved? Is it just getting on the same page again with Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, this is sort of a first-world problem. You won 26-10, and I thought Trevor in the first half had a lot of good throws and a lot of good reads, throwing the ball downfield, and you got Dyami Brown involved. They tried to get BTJ involved on the first play. I think he has 6 or 7 targets. I think they'll continue to try to get everybody involved early, and then after that, I really think the reality of this offense is going to be, you've got Travis Hunter, who's pretty good. You've got Dyami Brown, who's pretty good. You've got running backs pretty good. You've got Brenton Strange. I don't know that there's going to be a huge surge or a huge need of we've got to target Brian Thomas Jr. 7 or 8 times a game in order to be successful. And I think it's a problem to take care of itself. He's really good. The ball's going to find him, and he's going to have his games. But it's not going to be last year where Mac Jones was feeding him 12 times a game. Mm-hmm. That's not good, and it's not necessary in this offense.
We'll have to see how things evolve as the season goes along, but good point. He did get a lot of targets last year because he was the only option. So now we'll do our final big thing today, which is on to Cincinnati. Midweek, start turning the page, looking ahead. Next opponent's going to be the Bengals. Now we're going to bring in our extra host today, Mark Duffner, former linebackers coach of the Jaguars, but also former defensive assistant with the Cincinnati Bengals. So we talked a little bit about the defense pre-show. They played great against the Panthers. Different story when you take on the Bengals. A lot of targets there that are of a different caliber when you talk about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So what are the Jaguars defenders going to be up for this week?
Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you, Kai, for letting me be with you. They're loaded in terms of weapons. I mean, shoot, when you look at what Jamar Chase has meant to their offense, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, they added Noah Fant at tight end. The fact, too, that in the running game, they've had Chase Brown now active in terms of both a runner and a receiver. So they've got weapons across the board and speed, and they're going to distribute that. And this past game, again, their opening game against Cleveland, they struggled a little bit. They didn't meet their standard. So we're going to get their best shot in terms of what Joe Burrow and the offense and company are going to try to present to the Jaguars.
Excellent. All right, we're happy to have you here, Mark. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about what the Bengals bring to the table in Week 2 and what the Jaguars are going to need to do to get a win in Week 2. So stay with us here on Jags A.M. Jags A.M. brought to you by Fields Auto Group. See Fields first, Jacksonville's premier luxury auto group. Head over to fieldsauto.com. We'll go back into Jags A.M. here midweek. We're getting ready for Week 2 already, but we should still enjoy the victory from Week 1. We tried to turn the page and get prepared, though. Mark Duffner joining us today. And a perfect time for you to join us. Obviously, a longtime coach of the Jaguars, but you were in Cincinnati as well, so we can kind of pick your brain a little bit about what's going on in Cincinnati this week.
Well, I'm happy to share with you right now. I know for a fact right now that they're in there, even though today's an off day for the players, that the offense, in particular the offensive players, the receivers, the quarterback, they're all in there in the walkthrough area, going through their footwork, catching tennis balls, doing all the little things to try to improve their game, to up their skills. So they didn't. I think they felt like they didn't meet their standard coming out in the first game against the Browns in terms of explosive plays and things of that nature. So they're in there working hard right now, in full respect for the challenge of playing the Jaguars.
Oh, of course.
Tell us about Joe Burrow. We've talked at length about him on the practice field.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that, because the Bengals haven't gone deep into the playoffs except that one Super Bowl year, people tend to forget that when you talk about Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow is right there at the top with them.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you right now, I'm very pleased that I had the opportunity to be around this guy. I mean, the attention to detail he does, the competitiveness, the work ethic, the study, the leadership, the trying to improve his skills that he does is off the charts. He is as tough as they come. I called him Butkus because he'd go into the games and he'd take shots and he'd put himself out there to try to make plays and to move the offense in a way I hadn't seen. So I never could find a crack in the guy in terms of something that wasn't good, wasn't something that I highly respected. I mean, he is off the chart.
Yeah, full disclosure, outside of the 53 players for the Jaguars, he's my favorite NFL player right now. I love the way the guy plays. And Duff, I'm wondering, from afar, my sense is this is a guy that maybe everybody in their locker room doesn't love him or is his best friend. Maybe he is. My guess is he doesn't care about that, and my guess is he's a guy that everybody in that locker room believes, as long as he's in the game, they have a chance to win no matter the score. He's that kind of inspirational leader.
Without a doubt, John. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They know they go as Joe goes.
Right.
And they're going to follow him anywhere, any place. And they have great respect for him. You're right. He doesn't really care what anybody else thinks. His focus and his determination in trying to make the Bengals be the best they possibly can be is off the chart.
We talked a little bit about them. They've had slow starts, right, to the season before. Probably didn't play the way that they wanted to play last week against the Browns. Still got the win. You can't underestimate them going in, though, because Joe Burrow has the ability to kind of flip that switch.
Without a doubt. And I promise you, like I said, we're going to get their best shot. I promise you that. They're happy to be 1-0. They kind of got that monkey off their back. But they didn't. I know they don't think they played as well across the board offensively or defensively as they think they can, and they want to try to rectify that no matter who they're playing. Their focus is it's really about us, meaning they're thinking about the Bengals and how they can get better in offense, defense, and special teams. And I suspect it's the same for us right now, and the Jaguars down there. Downstairs, as they're preparing, it's about us. How we can get better at moving the ball, how we can get better at stopping them, how we can get better at field position and special teams. All those will be the focus this week.
If you were in the meeting room here and on the practice field here, how would you advise this team, to get ready for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins?
Well, you've got to still rely on your fundamentals. I mean, I think if you get too, over anxious about what they're going to do, you're going to lose focus and they're going to beat you badly as far as that's concerned. So you're going to have to still rely on fundamentals, have your eyes where they got to be, concentrate on understanding what your job is and do your job. They're tough. I've never seen Jamar Chase get tackled by the first defender, ever. And I mean, this guy can make you miss in a minute. And that's terrific. And then T. Higgins always has a way of coming up to make the play. He'll go up and get the ball when you don't think he can. So fundamentals, being where you should be, in other words, executing the defense. Execution is going to be paramount against these guys. And Burrow has a way of finding ways to win. He finds the guys. And so all those things, it's going to challenge every team that plays them to be at their best.
Tell me about Henderson.
highly competitive guy. Trey is another one right now that he thinks he can't be blocked.
Right.
I promise you, he's another one that's in there today when they don't have to be, studying, working on movement, his get off, all the little things that are going to make a difference. So again, he commands your attention, that's for sure. And he, not only in terms of pass rush and affecting the quarterback, he can set the edge and play good run defense too. So, and they used him a lot in the game. I watched that game closely. He played over 50 snaps, more than you might think in terms of an elite pass rusher, and he helped him as far as that's concerned. So he's certainly a guy that will command our offense's attention.
We talked a little bit about what Liam Cohen did in that Week 1 contest in terms of play calling. If you were kind of trying to game plan for that offense, is that something you look at just Week 1? Do you look at what he did in Tampa, all of it together, or do you focus on something else?
No, I think what you ask is a great question, Kai. I would focus on what he did in Tampa, especially in the latter part of the season, and then clearly in this first game. And he showed a lot of what his DNA is, and really, in the first drive of the game the other day. So they're going to run the football, they're going to be physical, they're going to challenge you with distribution of the ball, quick throws, screens. He ran 4 screens. He's going to challenge you with bootleg pass, faking the run and having the quarterback get out on the move. And then he's got all these weapons now that you've added. So I think that, again, Al Golden's going to have his hands full with what he sees from this offense, and he'll be very organized and in detail too in his approach to trying to stop it.
Thought that the Jaguars they were obviously the more physical team on Sunday, but thought they displayed the physical ability, the physicality, as coaches like to say, to be able to line up and play that way every Sunday. How hard is that to do?
It's tough. It can be tough. There's no doubt about that. It's the wear and tear it takes on your body, the mental state of mind you got to be the most physical team. But that's where it's won, and they won the game in the trenches the other day. In terms of, you saw it in terms of the run game, you saw it in terms of pass protection. I'm talking about the offensive line, no hits or 1 hit on the quarterback, no sacks. The defense in terms of rallying to get the run game stopped. So. That I think it's tough to do, but that's a challenge teams that want to be great have to meet.
Jeff, I haven't had a chance to talk to you much since you've been working with us. I know you've been digging deep into the Jaguars and probably like studying for an exam, right? Like learning this team. Defensively, give me one thing that just sort of stands out about this defense that you like so far.
Well, I really liked their energy and effort. There was good pursuit in the game. Their tackling for the first game I thought was excellent. And that's critical, critical components. You win with fundamentals, and I saw them out there. They gave up maybe 3 explosive plays, 1 on a quarterback scramble.
Right.
And when you have little or few explosive plays, that means assignment-wise, guys are in the right spot. You don't have coverage busts or misfits in the run game. Chuba, I think, had 1 run that was over 15 yards, and that can happen. He's a darn good runner. But I was impressed with their lineman assignment adjustment, which they had addressed in the preseason. I was impressed with their ability to get the ball off them. They got 3 takeaways, which 3 will generally equate to a win.
Sure.
They had 4th down stops twice, I think, that were, again, critical in the course of the game. The offense scored 10 points off the takeaways. So I really liked what I saw. Totally. I liked how hard they played. They seemed to trust each other. I liked the way that Anthony called the game. Mm-hmm. He mixed run or pressure and coverage together, where the quarterback, as the game went on, had his eyes trying to find a rush and struggled in terms of being able to move the ball.
Just a nice change of pace on defense to see what they've turned into, talking about it in training camp and seeing it executed in Week 1.
Amen.
Mark, thanks for joining us so far. We're going to talk a little bit more about the division as we check in on the AFC South coming up after the break. For 12 years, Dreamfinders Homes have been proud to call themselves the official home builders of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for all of the available inventory, and go Jags. Welcome back into Jags A.M. here midweek as we're looking back a little bit on last week, but also looking forward. Now we're going to look a little bit around the AFC South and see what went down within the division so we know where everybody's at. First of all, John, the Colts beat the Dolphins. They blew them out. Are the Colts really good, or the Dolphins really bad, or a combo of both?
Well, it's so hard to tell, and Duff would tell you this too. week one, it's so hard to draw a conclusion like that. My sense is they may be a little similar to the Jaguars, who beat a team that I feel like they should have beaten, handled business, which is what you want to do. It feels a little bit like the Dolphins may be in for a struggle this year, but the Colts, I think there was some inspiration involved. They had a halftime ceremony for Jim Irsay. So I think there was some adrenaline there in the building for that. Peyton was back. So, I mean, there was a little bit of energy there. But look, the Colts were a good team last year that really never figured out the quarterback position. Daniel Jones could be sort of a renaissance story. So this may be legit. It may be something to watch in Indy.
Listen, I thought that Daniel Jones was a solid addition in the offseason because of Jonathan Taylor, Duff. And when you look at Jonathan Taylor, he is an outstanding running back. And because they've struggled in Indy and he's had an ankle injury that has kind of lingered through the last 2 or 3 seasons, people may have forgotten how good he is. But when you have a competent quarterback who has that kind of a running back behind him, and the Colts offensive line is still fundamentally a good group, they're going to be a hard out. They're going to be a really difficult team for people to handle because that quarterback can move too.
No question. Daniel Jones played like Indiana Jones. I mean, geez, Pete, he found ways to make plays, and they made them in bunches. And then on defense, I mean, that game was dominant early on with the defense that Lou Anarumo dialed up for them. I mean, Miami couldn't move the ball a lick. And so I thought that really the Colts, offense and defense working together, really put forth a tremendous effort and held on to that thing almost for the whole 60 minutes.
Yeah, well, you know, I saw that the Colts were the first team since 1977 to score on every one of their possessions in a single game.
Unbelievable, yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm glad I wasn't on the other side of that now. But, I mean, that was, very efficient production on offense and defense for the Colts starting out.
Definitely not a fun spot to be for Miami, that's for sure. Let's look at the Texans a little bit. A lot of people's favorites to win the division, but dropped their season opener to the Rams. Some struggles on offense for C.J. Stroud, and just their defense is obviously very good, but their offense has a lot of holes. Brian, we talked about that offensive line, what they're dealing with, injuries as well. That's been hurting them. Injuries.
Well, and Duff can talk about Joe Mixon and what he needs, and he's obviously out right now, and that has hurt them. But I was impressed by what I saw from Nick Chubb, who has had serious knee injury the last 2 years, and he had a couple of 10-yard runs. I think he had 13 carries for 60 yards. If he can come back and keep them balanced, you can keep C.J. Stroud on his feet, and then, I mean, he's an electrifying player. We know that. Mixon out really hurts them, though.
No doubt. I mean, Joe is an outstanding back, both in protection, coming out of the backfield, catching and just running the ball. I'd love having that opportunity to be with him. But what you said about Chubb is strong, too. That guy is a pain in the back end, too, to defend. All he does is go north and south and make plays, and getting 66 yards, whatever it was in the ball game, was, again, a productive effort by him.
It'll be interesting to me to see what the Texans become offensively. Stroud had some comments after the game about, we were lollygagging a little bit. I mean, I'm paraphrasing it. And I called it a wake-up call. They had trouble last year sort of becoming what they wanted to be offensively. So they're an interesting storyline. I think they are the favorite in the division. They're a physical team, and when these two teams play in a couple weeks, that's going to be where it's decided. But C.J. Stroud in that offense, they're dangerous because he's really good. When can they get to what they want to be? It feels like that's their challenge early.
Well, and they're undergoing some sort of a metamorphosis at wide receiver. I mean, Stephon Diggs has moved on. He's playing in New England this year. And Tank Dell suffered that horrendous injury in the playoff game in Kansas City last year. And Nico Collins, who is a Pro Bowl caliber player and a really difficult guy to handle, was a non-factor in Los Angeles. And I didn't see the game, so I don't know whether it's because they just tilted everything in his direction. It would make sense when the other two guys aren't there. Go get Nico Collins and get him out of the game. But right now, they've got question marks at receiver. Dalton Schultz, their tight end, is their number one target.
Yeah, but there's some frustration there that'll be interesting to see how they, you hope that they don't figure it out until week 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen to that, John. What you said is right. I already looked at that film, and they just couldn't get in rhythm.
Yeah.
And and a lot of it was they were stopping themselves. No disrespect to the opponent, but and the Rams, but they stopped themselves. So they're struggling right now. And we hope that it becomes an internal itch on them right now. Part of it is the offensive line, as you talked about. I think their center was banged up a little bit. They had a tackle, another player got hurt. So it starts there too, but they just couldn't get in sync, and we hope that continues.
And by the way, I don't think Christian Kirk is supposed to play for the first month of the season.
Yeah, he's been
dealing
with an injury as well, which
He's
we
out.
know can linger with him sometimes. He's been injured a couple times the last couple seasons here in Jacksonville. All right, and let's close things out. The Titans, Cam Ward makes his debut. I think made some good decisions. Obviously, with a rookie quarterback, do you try to just pressure him as much as you can?
Try to do everything you can to make sure he's can't see things well. So we want to disguise him. We want to get him wondering what's going on so he can't, produce.
Sure. So he had some strong throws, stayed in the pocket. He has a strong arm, but Calvin Ridley had a couple of drops, had a couple other drops from his wide receivers. That makes it hard as a rookie quarterback when you're already going up against that. But Denver Broncos defense tough too. So the Titans fall to the Broncos in their season opener as well.
Well, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he got sacked 6 times. He was never able to set his feet and be comfortable because the Broncos defensive front is really good. And the Titans offensive line, they brought in the big tackle from Pittsburgh. They spent $60 million on him. And they have the right tackle that they drafted from Alabama last year. But they're still in flux with their offensive line. And, Duff, they're trying to make the transition from caveman football, where they just beat the hell out of you with Derrick Henry, right,
Correct.
to a more modern offense. That doesn't happen overnight.
Not even close. And that's, again, getting everybody to gel together right now. I mean, they struggled running the football. Like you said, Denver gave that quarterback a lot of different looks. So, as you said, he couldn't get set right now. He's feeling pressure. He's getting hit, 6 sacks. I mean, it was just, again, trying to get going. Anything get going was uphill and tough sledding for him.
I only saw highlights. The highlights I saw late involved a really good Denver defense with a rookie quarterback who at times late was flustered enough that he held the ball too long, which is sort of, if you're writing a script for that game,
How that's going to go.
would have been how you thought. But it looked to me like the first 3 or 4 games you expect that from a rookie quarterback like that. He looked like the arrow's up.
I think the other thing that rookies don't understand until they get in the season is the speed of the game. It's a little different in preseason. Each and every week it gets faster, and then when you get into the season, it picks up then, and it picks up as the season goes on. So for young players, first-time players, speed of all that's going on, it's hard to underestimate that.
Yeah, Cam in a couple of plays where it looked like, oh, that guy's here already.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
No, that's right.
That happens.
Never good. All right, stick with us. One more break, and we'll tell you what's coming up the rest of the week. Jags fans, you want customized Jaguars furniture for your home? Check out zipchair.com to browse all the customizable options. Zipchair is furniture for fans.
Some footwork things. There was a couple on the missed targeted throws that, if you look at, he's 19 of 31. We missed 3 screens on Omaha to Diami on the right sideline. And then you talk about the one to BT, it's like a few of those, and he's 25 of 31 for 200 plus. And now you're talking, it's not about the stats, it's about the balance. It's about the balance. And so if you're sitting there saying he could have been 25 of 31 for 200 plus and you try to eliminate the turnover, you're sitting there saying he had a damn good game. So what's nice is that I thought he operated the offense really well. I thought he had great command. He used his cadence. We got the free play response. There were some really good things that did show up.
Hey, Coach Liam Cohen talking a little bit about what he saw when he looked at the tape of Trevor Lawrence's performance. Described him as solid, but obviously pointing out a couple of throws that were missed, things that switched the tide on it. Looks a lot better. Brian, when you looked back at Trevor's performance, solid, but more to do.
Well, the second half, obviously, he wasn't as efficient. And that's got to be, the word is consistency, right, Duff? You've got to be consistent from the start of the game to the end of the game. And you can point to the long layoff or whatever it is. I don't know that anybody's made any excuses for it, but in the first half, he was better than he was in the second. So there's a lot of upside there, and I think if you go back and look at last year when Liam was in Tampa, Baker Mayfield really took off after week 4. That's when all of a sudden you started to go, wow, look at what he's doing. So there's a curve that we haven't quite got to yet. And John, part of that is you got to get into the meeting rooms and you've got to make corrections and you've got to coach and you've got to get him closer to where you want him to be. with respect to the offense and the game plan.
Well, you can win with the guy in the first half. You can win with the guy in the second half if you have a big lead.
Yeah.
So he struggled in the third quarter, but I think the big thing with Trevor that you saw when it was going right and when they kept him out of the gray in the first half, like Liam likes to talk about, there were throws he made, there were decisions he made that were very positive. I thought it was a good way to build, but you can't have stretches like he had in the third quarter against the teams they're about to start playing from week 2 to week 8.
Yeah.
All right, busy week coming up. Who are you guys talking to this week? What do you got going on?
I'm supposed to have Jordan Lewis in the Ozone podcast.
Awesome.
I'm excited about it. I did not have him on it in the off season, and I have not had a chance to talk to him a whole lot. But as impressive as you can be coming in as a free agent, and he's got a great story. He had what was almost a career-ending injury in 23 or so, where he basically shattered his foot. And I'm not going to compare him to Calais because that was a special thing in 2017. But this guy's impact as a leader, as a free agent, is pretty impressive.
I'm going to talk to Sean Surratt, the offensive line coach. And Duff, we were talking about it. The offensive line, in its first game together with a couple of new starters and a new coach and a new scheme, it's pretty impressive how physical they were able to play.
Oh my gosh, you rush for 200 yards. The quarterback doesn't get sacked. He gets one hit in the game. Excellent. Very, very good as far as they're concerned. A couple penalty things, but that's going to happen. Some of that was just over-aggression. But, I think you ought to be very happy with that.
That's a good Sunday night for an offensive line coach, right?
Yeah, well,
absolutely it is.
And you can appreciate the fact that offensive line coaches are interesting to talk to.
Oh,
Because you never know what you're getting, right? You might get the guy who's happy coming off a performance, or he might just be like they call them the Mushroom Society, right? They're in the dark and they get manure thrown all over him. He might be a little cranky. He might want his guys to play just a little bit harder, or not be so full of themselves. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But offensive line coaches are the most interesting assistant coach interviews that I have ever done in 30 plus years of doing this.
Well, all the hard work, none of the glory, right? So
That's
offensive line is the motto. Mark, you will be back on Happy Hour. You've been on Thursday Happy Hours with JP and Jeff. I imagine you'll have a full game plan by then for the Bengals.
I'm looking forward to it. Yes, I will.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you on AM.
And the door's right over there anytime you want to walk in.
And,
I thought you were telling him to get out.
I know. I was like,
Well,
dang,
that's what I thought it was. I was about ready to go.
Duff. No,
let me throw to break at least.
No, saying it's right there. If you want to come through it, come through it.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mark will be back for Happy Hour. We will be back on Thursday as well as we talk more Bengals here on Jags A.M.